Hey everyone, this is Karen Waxman, founder of Retail MBA. And in this particular segment, I want to talk about how to sell your products to online retailers, and more specifically, what you need to know about in regards to selling to online retailers, because it's definitely different than actually selling to stores and major retailers and so forth. So the reason I decided to create this particular segment is because people always ask me, Karen, is there a difference between selling to, say, Walmart or Walmart.com, or I want to sell more to the online retailers, but is there things that I need to know? So I wanted to kind of touch upon some of the key components there that you need to explore when you're just determining which way you want to go, whether or not you want to sell to the big chain stores or online retailers, or want to go after the smaller guys and so forth. That's the whole purpose of my trainings and supporting you with this knowledge. So, okay, online retailers. So here's the thing. Online retailers, people don't realize this, but if you want to sell a product to, say, Walmart, it's very different than selling a product to Walmart.com. There's actually two separate companies, and all the major retailers, most of them at least, have buyers who buy for Walmart, the actual stores, and I'm just using Walmart as an example. It could be for any department store or specialty retailer or whatever it is for you. But all the major retailers have buyers who purchase products for the stores. And then they also have typically a separate buyer who purchases for the online retailers. So a Walmart buyer does not necessarily buy for Walmart.com. There's two separate buyers. There's two separate people. They're actually usually break it out into different divisions. And so most people don't realize that. They think that they're selling to everybody. So the good news for you is that you have the ability to sell to the stores, and then you also have the ability to sell to the online retailers separately. So that's a really big deal, and most people don't understand that. So the good news is that you can figure out the contact information for the buyer for online retailers versus the stores, and then you can reach out to both of them, and then ultimately hope that somebody buys from you. And if you want to learn more about how to actually talk to buyers and ultimately get them to buy, definitely explore my Retail MBA program. But anyhow, so back to selling to online retailers versus selling to stores direct. So there are some fundamental differences that I do want to mention. So the first thing is, when you're dealing with online retailers and stuff, the thing about them is that they buy typically less quantities initially. And so the good news in that is that they can test products quickly, and they don't need as many units. So for those of you who are really panicked about selling to the major retailers, you might want to, and you're not sure if you can handle the quantities and so forth, definitely the online retailer portion could be a good option for you. So definitely the online retailers buy less quantity typically, but they also typically work with distributors. So for those of you who don't understand what a distributor is, essentially a distributor is kind of like a middleman, a company that handles your orders, fulfills the orders for that retailer. And so when you sell directly to stores, sometimes they require you to deal with distributors, but a lot of times you can contact the retailer directly and sell to them directly. But when it comes to online retailers, most of the time they're dealing with distributors, because there's shipping and there's lots of other stuff involved that the retailer doesn't want to deal with, so they work with certain distributors to be able to support that. So just so you know, if you do want to sell to online retailers, you're going to have to deal with distributors. And one of the things to think about is that distributors take a cut. Usually they take a percentage of sales, since they're doing the work for you in order to get your products into the online stores. So that's food for thought. So the one good news is the online retailer buys less quantity, but they can test more products, which means it could be a great entryway into that retailer. But the other thing to think about is that you probably will have to deal with a distributor. And if you want to know how to deal with distributors or how to find them, I have a separate segment on distributors that you should take a look at in my blog. But just so you know, when you're selling to, say, Walmart.com, you definitely have to know that that is an issue. So the other thing is that when you're dealing with online retailers and they decided to purchase something from you, you need to make sure that the pictures of your product look good. So you need to spend a little money on photography and that type of thing, because if you think about it, selling at a store, somebody's physically picking up your product and your packaging and everything, that's very different than when someone is buying online. So you need to make sure that the picture representation of your products are good. So definitely hire somebody to take those pictures for you. The other thing to think about is that when you're selling to online retailers, that you have to make sure that you understand how to write good copy about your product. So essentially what that means is someone's going to read a description about your product, and it's got to be really enticing online. And so the thing to think about is that you probably want to dig around on the online retail section of that retailer and see what other people are writing about their products, and make sure that whatever you're writing about the description, because they're going to ask you for descriptions to upload into their site, you really need to make sure that whatever you're writing is of value and that it entices people to buy. So you might want to hire a copywriter to do that as well. It's up to you unless you can write well. Bottom line is that there are some things to think about when you're selling online versus selling directly to stores. So again, the good news is that you can sell directly to stores, and you can also sell to their online cohorts, and they are separate, so that's usually good for you because that means more potential revenue there for you. But the alternative is the online retailer definitely buys less quantity, and I mean, not always. Obviously, if you're selling and you're blowing out online, they're going to keep buying from you, but typically it's not like selling to stores, and then ultimately you do have to think about stuff like making sure that your product looks good online. So if your product doesn't sell well online, that could be a problem for selling to online retailers. And so that's just food for thought. The bottom line is that today, when you have a new product and you're trying to bring it to market and you're going after the retailers, sometimes they're going to actually, the store retailer buyer might actually push you to the online retailer, because you'll notice that they'll say, well, if you call Walmart, they might say, well, let's start with Walmart.com and see what happens there. And lately, a lot of people are getting pushed over to the online portion, and it's because it's a lot easier for them to throw up a product on their site quickly, and that's easier for that retailer. It is more annoying for you because you want to put your products in the stores and you want to make more money. But ultimately, that's something to consider, that a lot of times you will call the stores and then they might push you over to the online portion. And if you do decide to go that route, then you definitely need to think about pictures, and you definitely need to think about making sure that it looks good and descriptive, and you thought that through. So food for thought. There's obviously a lot more to selling products online, but I really wanted you to think about some of the things that are included when it comes to selling online versus selling direct. And for those of you who didn't even know that, I hope it provided value for you to know that there's a separate buyer for the stores versus selling directly to the online portion of the companies. Anyways, this is Karen Waxman, founder of Retail MBA. If you want to learn more about how to actually pitch these buyers and ultimately what to say to them to get them to buy and what to say in the meetings and so forth, please take a look at retailmba.com, because that is my program. Retail MBA is a program that I developed. Thanks so much, and keep on the lookout for future videos and information that I create. Thank you.